When I was growing up, I didn't quite realize what I was missing culturally in my life. You don't quite realize what you have or what you lacked until you actually learned it. I do come from a native Hawaiian family, but none of my family members speak the language, and so I am the first in several generations to have learned it.
Right now, the Hawaiian language is still kind of relegated to the classroom.
We as Hawaiians have a duty to really revive what was once ours.
There was that incident on Maui where a man in the courts, the judge refused to recognize him because he was responding in the Hawaiian language instead of in English. That caused an uproar, of course, because Hawaiian is one of the official languages of our state, so you should be able to conduct business in Hawaiian language as well as in English.
It was about the fact that I was speaking Hawaiian that he never liked.
So I realized that's pretty important to be able to make the hearing of Hawaiian language
Could you please translate for the members?
and the speaking of Hawaiian language
Olelo Hawai'i make unuhi mai. I don't want to translate. Mahalo.
more common in our wider community.
Ako, au, ikalopo, laoho. There's a lot of misinformation about pronunciation among residents here. And so just initially learning how to pronounce the street names and the city name. Those things you can get 20 different answers for one pronunciation. And once I got into actually learning the language, I found that actually most of those are incorrect.
By normalizing the language and making Hawaiian language accessible to people through mediums such as theater and film, that's something that allows things like this to spread a lot more.
Put up your fingers. Ekolu. Once upon a time.
The play is called Ekolu because it's 3 stories for children. Ekolu is 3. Each story is about 3 characters. The 3 billy goats gruff, the 3 blind mice, and the 3 little pigs.
If you don't let me inside, I'm going up. And I'm going up. And I'm going blow your house down.
I think a lot of people can benefit from kind of learning such traditional and familiar tales in Hawaiian. Because, with Hawaiian language revitalization, it's not just about preserving the past, it's also about incorporating the language into our modern day.
Having known the story, I was able to relate some of the sentences.
You know the song, Sing With Me, the tree.
Incorporation of gesture and body language, it helps connect ideas much more solidly in the brain. The kids, seeing that, would help them also remember cow. Oh, the billy goats, they did this. Cow, that's goat. So it would help them make the connection. And grass, and my actors still walk around and say, Mau!
If I had a prop, I could hook the line to the item. So to clean the house, once you see that brush, it brings up the line.
Cecily was definitely a testament to how hard the actors worked. Cecily had probably the biggest role out of all of us. I definitely give her major props for that.
Every time I would come on up to something that I didn't know what it was, I would say, hey, ahakihia.
Most of my actors had very, very little exposure to Hawaiian language. So I worked with Navahi, the Hawaiian Language Immersion School, to have some of their high school students come in to be part of this project. Those students had no exposure to acting.
Going down the road, and 2 mahua'as when they would go down the road.
They learned from our actors here on the UH campus, and I think it worked well.
I was the only speaker of the UH Hilo students. Most of them came to the consensus that learning the show was extremely hard, but so many of them felt that it was just really worth it to be able to see the lasting impression that it leaves on the students.
Okay, read after me. Migi. Faina. Faina. Nui. Now who thinks they know what that means?
Every school we went to, we gave these pre-assessments and post-assessments. And every time we would verbally quiz the children on the Hawaiian words that they learned, it's just amazing to see how in the span of an hour that they were able to pick up on so much. Several of the students overlapped after-school programs.
It's just a quick little worksheet.
And for those students, they were even like stepping up as kind of leaders to their classmates because they're kind of like telling them, hey, this is what the play is about, we're gonna learn Hawaiian words, and I learned what this word means last week. If what you learned in an hour can be equated to what you could possibly learn in like a year or 4 years, I think that just really speaks to the power of education through theater and language revitalization through the arts.
I'm not done compiling all the numbers yet, but it looks like, they learned. So that's great. But what was amazing was the actors, how much they learned.
A lot of people began incorporating some of the language into their conversations with other students. Tom Rafanan, who plays Kamoa or the rooster, one of his famous lines in that show is "Aihea kamea ai," or "Where's the food?" So whenever Tom and I are hanging out, he will always ask "Aihea kamea ai." So that was super cool for me as a Hawaiian speaker.
It's now months later and I hear them in the hallways using Hawaiian language when they had had no exposure to it prior to that. So that really warms my heart.
My class especially developed such an immense appreciation for Hawaiian.
I feel a connection to the way that I'm starting to understand how Hawaiians interact with the environment.
Our home resides within a host culture. We kind of should feel obligated to understand the language of that host culture. If you learn to look at things from another language, that's opening up your horizon to not just have such a narrow perspective on the world. Pretend you're a little girl at the door.
Like he said.
Yes. Yeah. Indigenous languages hold keys to knowledge that our ancestors had that sometimes we've lost.
We look back in history and we look at the ways that Hawaiians navigated the oceans and the ways that they described the ocean creatures, that these ways of thinking were far advanced. Some of these ideas are proven to be scientifically valid, and also, of course, they are culturally valid.
And that translates to knowledge is not just learned in only one school. The arts really help to enhance anything that you're putting your mind to academically, because it allows you to find ways to express yourself outside of the classroom and to share your knowledge in a creative way to help others learn what you're learning.
My goal long-term is to build a pool of actors who are able to perform in the Hawaiian language. So we've got people who are, hula dancers, beautiful hula dancers and singers who can perform in Hawaiian language, but we don't have actors who can do it. So I'm slowly, baby steps trying to create a pool of people who can, so that we can reach out even more to audiences.
I think with language revitalization, it's very much about kind of restoring what was lost in a sense. I would never say it's a waste of time, because I think culture is something that is so rich and invaluable, and it should never be erased from history. If the language is alive, the culture is alive, and Hawaii can prosper as it once did.